Hi, Ed Marks here. I'm the Chief Digital Officer of Tech Mahindra Health and Life Sciences, and I'm really excited again today to share with you one of my favorite people in the world, Dr. Babatope Fatuyi, and we're going to talk about race relations in healthcare technology. And for those who've been following along, you know that this is an ongoing series. This is not a one-time event, but this is an ongoing series for us to really have those crucial conversations about race relations and specifically in the area that we all serve in, and that's healthcare technology. And you might recall a couple months ago, we had Cletus Earl, and he's a CIO, awesome CIO, and he shared his perspective as a Black man CIO in healthcare. And then last month, we had Myra Davis, also a phenomenal CIO in person, and she shared perspective of not only being CIO Black, but also as a woman. And so we want to try to cover all the different areas here to make sure that everyone gets a well-rounded view of what's happening and what we can do to make things better and correct some of the injustices of the past. So without much further ado, let's introduce, I'm going to call him Tope, be a little bit more informal. And so Tope and I do go back several years. So I saw that next slide showing some pictures. So we became colleagues in New York City, where we worked together, Tope as CMIO, I as CIO, and we took advantage of the opportunity to bring our families together. So one of those pictures are family, the others are my goodbye party, and just great times that we had together. We did a lot of great service together, a lot of hard work, and so we also took time to celebrate. So with that, so I wanted to self-disclose, this is a good friend of mine, so that makes it double fun for me. So welcome, Tope, to our webinar. And so there's a little introduction for you there, but please add to that, tell us about your journey and your background as a physician in healthcare IT.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much. I wasn't thinking we are going to be sharing those photos, but those were nice. Those are good times in New York City when we served together. As displayed and shown, I am an executive, physician executive, now Chief Medical Information Officer at the University of Texas Health Science Center, right here at the Texas Medical Center. I'm in my office right now, and I am one that is born and raised by a teacher. My mother is a teacher, my dad engineer. One of four kids, just as a form of introduction to all, and father of three. Now, I did attend medical school in Nigeria, the College of Medicine at the University of Ibadan, which was built 1948. It was part of the University of London and became an independent institution 1963. It is the oldest degree awarding university in Nigeria right now, and as far as I know and I'm concerned, it is the best university out of Africa. Um, that I mentioned that because the spine and my foundation is a reflection of my family and my education in Ibadan. Now, to make that even better, is the fact that I got a program at the University of Georgia for Masters in Public Health, Health Policy and Management, which that was then when I became a bulldog in that sense, for those who understand college football and things of that nature. Uh, when I finished that program, I got into Atlanta and I found myself working in a hospital in phase 2 and 3 clinical trials. And at that time, the HI tech, incentives was booming. And you have a lot of firms looking for individuals to help with transitions from paper workflows to EHRs, and that must follow the prescribed prescriptions of the ONC, amongst others. With tied to that was significant dollar value, and they needed a lot of staff and resources. So it was kind of brand new, more like the internet.com era, where it's just lots of jobs for folks. And that was how I was part of one of those implementations that at the time was Cerner. Upon completing that, I found myself with Clinovations. And Ed, as you know, that was the beginning. I met a gentleman, Dr. Matt Lambert, who more or less was a brother to me, and the rest is history. I interviewed after working with Conservation Advisory Board for a long time at UT Health because they needed a CMIO, and I happened to be blessed and lucky enough to serve in this capacity for this organization. That is not the entirety of my introduction, but I think that's succinct for this gathering.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thanks for that introduction. It's really good to have that background. So I want to remind all of our attendees that this is live. We do this live for two reasons. One, so that we can engage with you, the audience. So if you have any questions around the topic of race relations and healthcare technology, specifically today regarding the clinical side, given that Tope is a physician, definitely put in your questions and we'll try to get to as many of those questions as we can. So feel free to engage with us. We would love to have that. Second reason we do it is just kind of fun to be live and not something staged or pre-recorded or pre-rehearsed or anything like that. So tell us, Tope, because many of us don't know. I assume some in the audience might know, but many of us don't know. I know I don't know. What is it like being a Black man and a clinician in healthcare? Tell us your journey from that angle? Like, have you encountered racism, and how does that look? Because I'm clueless.
And by that, you mean racism generally when I get into the walls of the hospital, or just general as a citizen of America?
Yeah, I think more along the lines inside healthcare.
Okay.
Have you, what sort of obstacles are there that we as a white person would not know or can't relate to?
And awesome. Let me try and answer that question to the best of my ability. And I will borrow from some of my friends' experience because I do have a cohort of colleagues who had similar journey as mine through medical school in America right now, practicing in different capacities and specialties. Everyone has a story. Many things that we trained ourselves for those who are privy is to understand what filters are, which might affect behavior and perceptions, and to overcome that in order for us to get by. In addressing overt, more or less clear, outright racism will be, as a clinician or one who is going through a rotation, especially earlier on, in the clinic, and whereby patients is not new, but we still experience that till today. They second guess every attempt of you trying to provide care and help. Some really just don't want you to care for them, because they don't think you're smart enough, because they think you're Black and perhaps won't understand. And this is me just also trying to cater to some of their lack of understanding. Sometimes it hurts because of how they deliver those overt racism, because just because you're Black doesn't mean that you don't know, and many of us get the benefit of the support of our colleagues who are doctors, or the hospitals that have significant years of exposures to people like me, who definitely, for you to get to where you are, justify that you're smart enough to be a doctor, and that's why we provide services. So in that sense, from patient standpoint, that happens. Yes, we also do have doctors who, in this case, a female colleague of mine who finished the residency training, trying to get a job somewhere in, I wouldn't name the area, and incidentally, if you know me, I once lived there, and it was just overt from the recruiting officer with questions like, "There's no one like you here. Why do you want to work here? Why can't you work? Why do you want, after residency training in New York, why do you want to come here anyways? Are you single or married?" No, and the response was, "Oh, I'm single." So you're by yourself. This is not a place for you. Overt and direct affrontation, non-welcoming, and there's no other reason beyond the fact that she's just looks like me. She's a black woman trying to find a job in a place that is a small town, predominantly none like her really, that is educated actually lives out there. Those two from the hospital settings, amongst others. The others will just be things that we encounter. Like, in my past as healthcare IT, I've been a traveling consultant all of my life in all of this, really. And I've worked in many, almost 30 states, if not more. And New York City and LA have been the largest cities that we worked through, through those organizations out there. But majority have been in small towns, you know. And in you going to those small towns, there's strong perceptions, and the fear is real. The fear of you driving late, the fear of the fact that before they even know who you are, it's kind of late. You know, now have I been pulled over for speeding in those areas before? Yes, I have. And how have I managed myself? Thank God I wasn't inebriated in any circumstance, and I dug into my experience in life, you know, to manage the situation because at those moments I am in control and no one else. And in that way, I was able to survive traveling at those places and getting by and getting that through because I came to this country as a grown man at 29. I was already afraid as a person. If I was young, maybe I wouldn't be talking to you right now with respect to how we respond naturally to events and things of that nature.
Yeah, no, that's very insightful. And the reason I asked for the examples, because again, a white person or non-black person, we can't relate, and vice versa, can't relate to that experience because we haven't experienced it. And even though we can think about it intellectually, until you hear some of the examples like the ones that you shared, it doesn't become real because it hasn't been part of our experience. So, whether it's the second guessing, like no one's second guessed me, or if it's those sort of indirect questions like, well, why are you really interested, and then just the fear. I recall, for instance, Myra sharing, she's got two grown boys and who are men, and she has to think about what the example you gave at the end, whether you're driving late or out late. There's this suspicion, and I don't get it. I get it intellectually. So it's good to hear the stories because sometimes I think we, general population, we can minimize the experience of others because we don't know, we can't relate. And so hearing it directly and from trusted colleagues like Myra and Cletus and yourself, I think hopefully penetrate listeners' hearts that there is a problem and it's real. And so that's what we want to focus on next, Tope, is really, okay, it's real, it's a problem. We've heard it so many times now, as obviously outside of healthcare, it's very plain to see. We've talked mostly about healthcare. So what do we do about it? So the cool thing about the webinars, I think, is that we're also developing sort of solutions, like what can we do? And so it's really, really where I want to head next. So again, I just want to remind our viewers that you can engage directly with us. If something that Tope said sparks a question for you, please ask it. Or if you have another question on the topic, we're happy to take a look at it. So Tope, what are some things that we can do? So in healthcare specifically, what can we do to erase the inequality that's been there and really go forward now, in the right way? So what are some things that we can do to correct the direction we have been so that we don't continue to repeat the situation?
Thank you for that question. And like everything and many things in life, right? We're a projection of the larger community. Healthcare doesn't just exist by itself. Just like in religion, the church or the mosque or the Hindus is a reflection of the culture of the people in every way. And what can we do in this sense is I'll dig into what many that have come before me, either in the country or in the show that we have in this webinar in that sense have echoed. and which is ownership and education. Education is real. And when I mean education, I am not just talking about typical four walls of going to college, breaking barriers and exposure. Ed, many people are ignorant. Many, too many, really. And I know how to get by, but many still don't that look like me. You know, we apply false opinions, which tend to be positive sometimes to those who don't look like us. While on the other hand, we get the negative opinions by just the mere fact of being existent, and that is what racism is. So, to address this in it's purely education in every way. And how do I, without just more or less saying some groups are worse than the other, once we apply fair exposure and education in form of reforms, or whatever term we want to call it, and allow and carrying out outright justice, because majority of the problems that we do have is, a friend said, many people, I want to believe, about 90% of white people are nice, they're good people, and that is true, maybe more. But guess what? The 10% plus or minus 5% is way too many.
Yeah.
And not just that, the rest who are good, that are quiet and not really singing in chorus of anti-racist gestures, are beyond complicit, and also the majority who let those injustices go without outright application of measures that will make them not do those things again. So you can only legislate long for so long. The heart of man really needs to be exposed to kindness, to love, to care in a lot of ways. And it's not an overnight thing. It's something that must be addressed through campaigns, acknowledgement of the justice system, through the fact that two people doing the same thing. I mean, I was just thinking about it in a lot of ways until we automate the justice system in policing and other things and law enforcement. Maybe that might help, but then that's something that is futuristic. I believe if that is addressed in public, in healthcare, it's going to be better for all of us.
Yeah, you brought up several really good points, and then it reminded me of another practical thing. But one of the main points, Tope, you just brought out is that you have to be proactive. I agree. There's just a subset of individuals that will never reach, and I don't want to waste time trying to. I'd rather reach that huge majority that need to take action. You have to do something, because being silent, isn't going to help. And saying, hey, that's not me, that's the other person. So you've got to take action. And so that was one theme that I heard from you. And one way of doing that that I just wanted to put out there, and I don't think we've discussed it in the past, is mentoring. And so oftentimes when we all should have mentors, number one. And when you seek a mentor, you often seek someone that's like you and looks like you. And the challenge I'm going to throw out there, and to myself, is have a mentor that does not look like you. And also mentor someone that doesn't look like you. I always think as leaders, we have a responsibility to mentor and be mentored. And so both ways, pick someone that doesn't look like you and have a mentor that doesn't look like you, because that's what makes us better as people, and it opens up the heart, is to have all these very diverse perspectives. So that's another idea of what people can do. And it's just conversation like you and I are having as well. And don't be afraid to talk to people. When all this started really capturing the mind share, at least in the United States, around the George Floyd horrid incident, I called a friend of mine right away. I just had to talk, and that was very helpful. Just reach out to other people and cross communities and just start that dialogue. So anyways, those were some really good ideas, Tope. Another one, what do you think can be done about, I think there's a issue with underrepresentation. Like, I don't know how many Black CMIOs there are, but I know that there's not many. Do you think there's underrepresentation, and what can we do? So if you're talking to like an executive in a healthcare system, what can we do to close that gap?
I'm talking about representation. That is very real and true. Because as I rose to my path, I'm not one that just rose from practicing medicine that ended here. I rose really from implementation and experiences from hospitals to hospitals, and then my education and experience might merged together the right group for me to be here. And part of the process for me to be representing and is C-suite executives at UT Health is because the McGovern Medical School has a robust diversity program that is active and purposely, for which I am also learning how to ensure that as someone who also leads a team and put people together, ensure that there's a fair and balanced, not just by the color of my skin, but also by gender, by representing all the stakeholders, because collectively is how we can be better
Yeah.
as an organization and as a country. You know, we're really diverse. Houston as a city is the most diverse city in America, be it by religion or by tongue or otherwise. So we have significant representation. So yes, diversity is key because that's the only way I can know about you and you can know about me. That's the only way when you see, because of my relationship with you, when you see someone that looks like you out of here, then you're not really, you don't feel some type of way in that sense. And I can say that helped me in my current job because when I came for the interview, there were Nigerians on the panel, when there were Black people on the panel. In the Texas Medical Center, there is Black people that are working that in healthcare. They're surgeons who are doing great stuff. So me coming in is no big deal. The
Right.
question is, what do you have to offer me? But this is not a reflection of many parts of the country.
Right.
Until we accept our reality as as an immigrant nation and take immigration and diversity out of the national discourse and just accept it for good, which is the only thing that I see in here, um, then we're going to continue to use that which is supposed to bless us to be something that is against us. That more or less is the autoimmune disease in America, whereby your own body is fighting you.
Yeah.
You can only legislate that again. And I know I've said that before for so long, until the heart of man is penetrated through through calculated reach to the majority, whereby even if it's not affecting you, you speak up against it. Because anything that will just negate another man's life and relegate it as long as yours is good, please don't sleep well at night. Speak it up and then do like Ed, so we can all talk about it and we'll be better for it.
Yeah, that's good stuff. So we have a couple questions and we're going to get to them. I just make one comment, and that is, yeah, I just challenge all my colleagues in healthcare technology to hire a diverse team because there's so much strength, like you alluded to, Tope, in having the diverse team. If you all think the same and look the same, and you're going to be limited. There's going to be a cap. But when you open up that cap and you think differently, stop looking at the same criteria that we've been doing for dozens or hundreds of years, and think more about the plurality of diversity and the multiplication that presents in terms of creativity and leadership and uh, every aspect. It'll be that much richer. I haven't shown the picture on purpose, but of our team in New York City, I was the only white person on our team, and I have to be careful saying this because I have members of my team today, watching this. but that was I'll just say it this way. That was an amazing team. And part of the reason was the plurality of culture, of thinking, creativity, and it was awesome. All right, so we have several questions. So Tope, you'll have to do like 60-second rapid fire on these questions, although they're very deep, okay? So here's one. So, you have this background, you came from Nigeria. How connected are you to African-American communities today? And are you doing anything to improve their outcomes, whether in the United States or maybe externally? So, how involved are you, and what are you doing things in that area?
Yes, first is for me to educate myself on the history of how I got the opportunity to survive here as an American. That's because of the African American story of all the fights of those I've seen before us, trying to get to school and break the Jim Crows and all the likes, right? That's the first thing I've done to help me understand my past here. My wife is African American, so in that we share the same, and through her and her family and those friends, I can only be me. For those that know me, I don't hold my expressions, and I use that to teach and help people think other ways apart from what perhaps we're all made to believe in that sense. So
yeah.
I mean,
the next two, I'm going to combine the next two questions, and we touched on a couple, but maybe we'll just summarize them, and I can certainly jump in as well with some of my own thoughts. But what are some immediate changes that can be done to improve diversity and racism in healthcare? If we can think about it in healthcare.
the immediate change is for us to identify leaders for those who really end and ask them those questions. And in that, meaning someone like you, Ed, or those who have the power to make that change. Because I can complain about it all I want, but I can hire and put people in places around.
Yeah.
Look into other people's faces. Look around you. If you're just one color of the Asians, for example, that's not enough. That's why it's beyond just the issue the black race suffers is beyond just a cohort, to be fair. Because once you leave America, it's with another person group you're meeting. If you're all white, think about it. How can you inject color into your group? And I think that's the immediate thing we can do. If you're listening and you know those guys, email, ask them. I was at this webinar and we just want to ask and have a conversation. You're all by yourself. As the next opportunity, is it okay for you to ensure you open that seat for somebody else?
Yeah.
That is equally capable. Because if we don't extend that, you and I cannot. I know my limitation in hiring, and until we get those hiring managers and those leaders to share the empathy and see the possibility, it won't happen.
Yeah, is that what you're really also saying is be an advocate. So I always say too, Tope, and this is what you're saying, so I'm just kind of summarizing, is that you need to take action. Government's great and UT is great because they have some programs, but don't wait for the programs because ultimately it's a heart issue. So everyone do something. So the examples that you gave were great. If you are a hiring manager, be sure to embrace diversity and just the power that it'll bring to your team and to your organizations and to everything that you do. So those are really practical, whether it's the mentoring, creating internships, embrace, talk about diversity, embrace it, lead it, show it. It's everyone's responsibility. So don't wait for HR either. So HR is good to work with, but at the end of the day, it's each person has to make a difference because collectively, each person doing something is going to have much bigger impact than government and our particular organizations, although that's all good.
And I just want to mention that nothing that I've said or talked about is easy. It is uncomfortable. It is purposeful and intentional. You might not get the right response the first time, but you never stop. There's nothing I did that I got right the first time. You learn and you go at it again until you get comfortable at doing it, and definitely you get the answers that you want. Be it by integration, getting to learn other people's culture, and understanding that we all laugh at the same jokes, we bleed the same blood, we have the same pleasures in life. At the end of the day, it's very helpful to those things.
Yeah, no, this has been awesome as I expected, Tope, and it's always so good to see you. Thank you so much for being our guest, sharing your perspectives. So thank you. In our last 30 seconds together, I just wanted to review some upcoming webinars. We're going to continue our virtual care. This time we're going to dive into the Middle East this fall. We're going to continue the talk on race relations like we had today. Next time it'll be a Black professional on the vendor side. So we've covered CIOs and women and men, CMIOs, thank you, Tope, again, and then we're going to talk about it from the vendor side. And that'll continue. We'll have a patient this fall, and we'll wrap up, although we're going to continue that dialogue forever. And then we'll have another on our series on digital healthcare, digital transformation. And so you can read what it says there, and then we'll talk about human-centered design. So lots of great content coming up, but nothing more important than what we just had today. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Thank you, Tope.
Thank you, sir.